This is Perspectivas Latinas, a community service of CAN TV. I'm your host, Juan Carlos Hernandez. Aquinas Literacy Center on the South Side works to change the world through English language classes for the community. Our guests, ALISON ALTMEYER and JULIO GUERRERO, are here to talk about how they work with the community and what they hope to create there. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let's start off by talking about you and how long you've been at the organization and what you do there. ALISON, please.
This is my 10th year.
10 years.
10 years at Aquinas Literacy Center. For the past 7, I've served as the executive director.
Okay, and what brought you to Aquinas Literacy Center?
I started out my career in education, teaching high school at Maria High School. I'm a high school Spanish teacher, yes.
Okay.
And when I left teaching, I still wanted to work in education, but the draw of working with adults was there, and so I found the spot, the right place for me at Aquinas Literacy Center.
Okay, and you, Julio, tell us about yourself and how you came to Aquinas and what you do there now, please.
Yeah, I was working in Milwaukee doing workforce development, nonprofit work, and I saw an opportunity to come down here and work at Aquinas. And I had grown up watching my parents work, and neither of them had a college degree, so they had to struggle to keep their jobs sometimes, and they got laid off. So I thought what I'd really like to do is I'd like to work with adults. I'd like to work in adult education, help them learn English, help them gain some skills that'll give them more economic success here in Chicago.
Great. Now tell us about Aquinas Literacy Center. It's Aquinas, St. Thomas Aquinas, right?
Yes.
Tell us about who that was and how this the center came to be, please.
Aquinas, St. Thomas Aquinas is a theologian who's very close to the Dominicans, and we are sponsored by the Adrian Dominicans, who once had a school on the South Shore neighborhood in Chicago. And when the high school closed and the literacy started in 1996, the sisters wanted to make the community aware that there are still sisters on the south side of Chicago involved in education, but in a different way. And so in 1996, 2 Adrian Dominican sisters came up with Aquinas to name the Literacy Center.
You just admired that particular saint.
Yes.
And named it.
Yes.
Okay. And why a literacy center? Why work in that area?
Because the community that we're in McKinley Park, there's a need for English language literacy services.
Okay.
And so about 18 years ago, the community asked the sisters who are living in the community in the local convent if they could start a literacy program. And so they started a literacy program in the basement of the convent. There are other literacy centers throughout the United States sponsored by the Adrian Dominicans.
Okay.
And so Aquinas started based after those models and the need in the community.
Okay, and this is the only Aquinas Literacy Center in Chicago, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so the organization started in 1996, and it was a response to community needs. And how does the everyday work of the organization look? How do you bring people in? Who does who teaches the reading and writing skills to the people that come in? Give me an account of how the everyday happens there.
Primarily our focus, our core program is one-on-one English as a second language tutoring.
One-on-one?
One-on-one. So one tutor to one student. All of our tutors are volunteers. They're trained. We have a training coming up. We do about 5 trainings a year to train our tutors. We certify them through Pro Literacy as ESL tutors. And we do ongoing development to make sure that all the students' needs are met. So in addition to one-on-one tutoring, where all students are assessed before they're placed into books, we talk about their goals, why they want to learn English, what's important to them.
Right.
In addition to tutoring, we offer supplemental classes, conversation classes, book clubs, writing classes. And Julio has a great part in our Computer Learning Center where there are 5 levels of Rosetta Stone available Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., where students can come in every single day and practice their English on the computer with Rosetta Stone.
Sure. Tell me about that, Julio, how that works, please.
Yeah, so we have the Computer Learning Center that's open all day, from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. And, it's really about encouraging our students, those who have the time, so they do their hour and a half or 2 hours with their tutor once a week. But sometimes if they're unemployed or if they've got time in their hands, what they do is they can come in every other day of the week and just work on the computer They can come to the conversation class, the group classes, which is conversation and writing. And so I have folks that come in between 20 and 40 hours a week.
Really?
You know, so they're coming in learning English like it's a full-time job. You know, they're just sitting there talking in the microphone, doing Rosetta Stone, and if they take a break, they'll get up to go to a group conversation class and then come back and get back on the computer. So it's really exciting to see how people really prioritize their language learning, and they really take advantage of the resources that's available to them.
Okay. Now, all of this is free of charge, right?
Yes.
How does that work? Because people think, well, I'm gonna have, well, like you said, it's one-on-one tutoring, and then there are those supplemental offerings that you have, like conversation and all of that. They would say that could cost an arm and a leg, and I'm sure it does cost money to run all of that. But how do you do that?
We are writing grants
Okay.
nonstop. We receive tremendous support from the Adrian Dominican Sisters
Okay.
through the Illinois Secretary of State Literacy Office, as well as private foundations, corporations, individuals, and our local community that support us. We cannot do what we do on a daily basis. There's only 5 of us on staff without volunteers.
5 of you, okay.
5 of us.
Okay.
3 of us are full-time, 2 are part-time. We have over 150 volunteers who serve in a variety of capacities, whether they're tutor, whether they answer the phone while they help with translations. It's a community effort, and there are a lot of people helping out because our students are motivated. They're there, they want to advance in English, they want to help their families, they want to become members of the community by speaking English.
Right. I definitely want to get into an example of somebody that's treating this learning as a job and putting that much effort into it. But I want to talk about your volunteers, how you bring them in, how you train them, and then how they work, and maybe how you resolve some issues, because, you know, working with people and teaching can, you know, present challenges that we might not foresee. Tell me about that, please.
Our volunteers,
well, both of you, actually.
we recruit our volunteers, and Julio assists. Our volunteer coordinator also is out and about recruiting volunteers from our local community throughout the city of Chicago, as well as throughout Catholic churches.
So you go to churches as well?
Yes. Anyone who wants to give and serve and volunteer, you know, we are happy to work with them. We provide them with an intensive weekend of training, and then we provide 4 different opportunities throughout the year to teach different methods and best practices, to share successes and challenges. On a daily basis, all of our tutoring pairs are supervised. So if a tutor is struggling, if a student is struggling, we're there and we're hands-on with them to make sure that really everyone's happy, that everyone, you know, the end result is to advance in English. Does the tutor have the tools necessary, and is the student motivated, and do they have the ability to learn the language and to succeed here in the United States?
So you go out and recruit the tutors?
Yeah, I've done some recruitment. You know, some of that's flyering, but some of that's also like going to church events and talking to parishioners and really selling the tutoring experience. But I think from that perspective, it's one of the easiest things to sell. If you can
How do you sell it?
you know, you talk to them and you give an example of having a student that comes in and you know, you teach English, work with them every week, and maybe one day they come in and they tell you a story, and that story would be, you know, when I first got to this country, you know, I had a hard time talking to people. I was nervous, I was intimidated, but I have to get around the city, and you know, so I get on the bus every day, and because I'm learning English, because I'm coming in 3 times a week, I'm able now to talk to the bus driver and ask for directions. I'm able now to go to the store and buy my groceries, and if I notice that I'm being overcharged for something, I can take that back and get my money back.
Right.
You know, so you hear these stories, these successes that they're having because they're learning the English, and that's the payoff.
Definitely. So do you ever have issues finding volunteers to tutor? Or
Absolutely. We never have enough tutors. We always have a waiting list of students.
Wow.
We don't have to do student recruitment. Our students come by word of mouth.
Wow. Which speaks highly of your work then.
I think it does. We always maintain a waiting list, and our retention, especially within the last year, we have retained learners. Learners are staying longer. They're more motivated. They're focused, and they own the program. This is their program, and they're proud of it, and they're there to help each other as well.
Okay. Yeah. So you go out and recruit and sell these great stories. How else, besides the churches, have you brought in volunteers? Is it primarily through churches or word of mouth that maybe
Local newspapers help us.
Okay.
Bridgeport News, the Brighton McKinley Park Life. You know, we are based in the community. Our
Okay.
students come within walking distance. A lot of our volunteers become within walking distance.
And once I say, okay, you got me, I want to volunteer, I want to help. Tell me about what a training looks like for a volunteer.
The first thing that we talk about is we give them the background of the program. We explain that we're here because there's the need in the community, and that's the most important piece. We're not open just to stay open. We're open because the community asked for the support, they asked for the help, and we've stayed open since 1996. The training starts out with talking about how adults learn, how adults are different than children. We go through specific methods and materials and resources. So we can give the generalization, knowing that our approach is so individualized,
Right,
but we
right.
give them a foundation to start.
Okay. And how do adults learn differently from children? Obviously, they have this life experience with them, but I mean, just for our viewers, explain to me some of that. How do these tutors know to deal with adults and not treat them as children, not to be condescending or anything like that?
The most important thing is to respect them as an adult and to know why they're
Okay.
there with us.
Okay.
And so for some, that's because they're there and their motivation is to help their children with homework. Some come in because they have medical issues and there isn't a translator available at the hospital and they need to learn how to communicate with medical personnel. Others are looking to enter employment. And so the most important thing about learning with adults is, and teaching adults, is how can we best serve them? Why are they there? What are their immediate needs and what are their goals? And that's different than children. These adults come, they have busy lives, they have families, but they're coming in because there's a need for them to learn English at this point in their life.
And once you have that foundation for these tutors, then the everyday, how does the scheduling work for them, for these volunteers? You're in charge of that, scheduling them, or you're just in charge of bringing them in, Julio?
Mostly bringing them in. I think Allison understands the scheduling part better.
How does that work? Because
The
you know,
one-on-one tutoring is 90 minutes a week. So for a volunteer,
Okay.
it's about a 2-hour commitment by the time you do some preparation, you do some paperwork, and you really have a thoughtful plan for your class. So our classes for one-on-one tutoring are scheduled 90 minutes once a week, which is doable for a lot of adults, whether they're retired or whether they're professionals and they're working and come in after work.
And so they come in once a week for 90 minutes, or
Yes.
can they divide it?
No, once a week, 90 minutes altogether.
And do they always work with the same tutor? Is there the chance to develop a relationship, or?
Sometimes that relationship is as equally important as the learning, because
Okay.
once a student is comfortable and they're able to express what their needs are and what their struggles are, you know, a tutor is more than a tutor. They're a coach, they're a mentor. For a lot of our tutors, they're the ones who can help their students succeed in the United States. They can get the services that they need. And so, you know, for our tutors, they serve in a variety of capacities in just that 90 minutes a week.
So tell me about one of those relationships that you've seen. You've been there for quite some time, and since 1996 this organization has helped people. There had to be a few stories of great relationships between tutor and student that have really just helped a person make a huge change in their life. Tell me about that.
You know, we have a man that we were just speaking with this morning who just became a U.S. citizen just a few weeks ago. And you know, he's worked hard on his English. He's worked hard to become a citizen of the United States. And then he just completed workplace training at another organization to help him find better employment. And that's the goal, is to get them on a path to really succeed, to help their families, to get involved in the communities, and even one day to give back to their local community.
Okay, and you brought up an important term, workforce development, and you have been involved with that. When people have come to you and said, "Oh, well, I really want to learn English because of my job, to get a promotion or to get better paid or just to find a better job," what do you tell them? What have you been able to do in this job now?
Sure. So I think, you know, because we do have small group classes, you know, I might have 3 or 4 students in a job preparation class.
Okay.
But I think the goal really for me is to learn what are your individual goals in this class. You know, if your goal is to work on your resume, I don't want to maybe spend too much time on job searching on the internet. You know, if your goal is to really focus on the interview, I don't want to have you doing something else. So really it's about understanding, you know, what can I do in this class to meet the need that you have coming in here, and then working on it together. So a lot of it is asking questions and helping the students realize that they have the answers they're looking for, but they just need to get it out.
Right.
And so that's kind of a lot of what I try to do. It's I think more about coaching, and it's more about helping them build their confidence.
Okay.
Because I think that's the biggest challenge that students have across the board. You know, that nervousness. And
Okay.
so that's most of what I see.
And how do you, I guess it's probably different for every person, but how do you build a person's confidence? Because it is difficult. You know, I'm an adult, I'm learning a language that is new, and I'm in another country, and maybe I've been here a few years, and I've had some embarrassing experiences with language. How do you go about that?
Sure. You know, I tell all my students that'll listen to me that my Spanish is poor, and you have to be comfortable making mistakes. And so I joke around and I say, you know, when I speak Spanish, I make mistakes all the time. And thankfully, all the students are there to correct me. And I think that's part of it, having a sense of humor, but like making them comfortable and saying, hey, we all make mistakes, it's okay. And then, you know, sometimes they're self-conscious about, you know, did I say that correctly in English? And then you just have to say, yeah, you did great. You know, so it's positive reinforcement. You know, you can't make assumptions about what kind of reinforcement they have at home or in their own life outside of the literacy center.
Right.
So I think it's really important for, you know, all of us, and I think we do a very good job of it, you know, reinforcing positively the learning that they're doing.
Okay, and I'm sure you've also have come across, well, especially you, students that maybe get too busy or stray and say they don't have time. Or, you know what, my children need me, even though it's only 90 minutes a week, I need to really focus on them. Or, you know what, even, I mean, I'm sure it happens a lot during the summer where people kind of disappear.
Right.
How do you work around that type of challenge?
The first thing is to mention that we always offer a spirit of hospitality where people feel welcome, where they are feeling more confident because they feel welcome and supported in a nice, calm environment for them, a positive, upbeat environment. And when a student wants to leave, we understand that life gets complicated. And so if they can't meet with a tutor, we do offer them supplemental learning, whether it's still participating in conversation or coming in to use the computer when it's convenient for them, when they have the time, to encourage them to keep learning, even if they can't do it on a consistent, regular basis.
And, well, you mentioned the conversation groups. How do those groups form, and what has come of those groups? Because it sounds to me like it's not just a place to learn, it's also a place to form relationships. So tell me about any good things that have come, like maybe they've decided to do something in the community, or maybe they've supported each other in a job search, something like that. I'm sure you have stories.
So right now we have about 10 supplemental classes, all taught by different volunteers. Many of them are retired teachers and professionals, whether in writing or in education. And part of it is relational and the group support and being able to sit next to someone to say, she's a mother, she doesn't know where to send her son to high school either. And one thing that has been beautiful that's come out of it is really the relationships that have developed, where now our students have every day at noon a conversation club, no instructor, no staff member.
By themselves?
By themselves, they talk in English, and our students have very native languages, so they can't rely on their native language.
What are those native languages?
In addition to Spanish, we have Chinese. We have an Indian woman who participates in that group.
Wow.
We have Lithuanian students, Polish students. So we will teach anyone who wants to speak English, regardless of whatever their native language is.
And I'm sure they're teaching each other different words from their own native languages as well.
And all about their culture as well.
It sounds great. And like, I'm going back to the question of relationships. How do you involve the rest of the family? Let's say a mom or dad or a couple comes for classes. Do children ever become part of this, or do you offer any activities for families?
Our tutoring is adults only, but once a year, as part of the statewide effort, we do have Family Literacy Night, where we have different games and activities for the whole family, from to small to big. There are different activities that promote literacy, promote learning at home, And most importantly, with that night, it's getting the family through the door saying, my mom comes to school here, my dad comes to school here. I can help them out by speaking English to them a little bit more, being a little bit more patient.
Okay. And I'm going back to you bring things up that just bring up other questions. You say you work with anybody that wants to learn English, and you're in McKinley Park, right?
Yes.
So people, there's an Indian woman you said, Chinatown's not too far away,
Not too far.
and certainly the Chinese community in Bridgeport and McKinley Park has grown a lot. But you also bring in Poles, you said? So from how far do people come?
I mean, we are a neighborhood, so we would say our student clientele comes from McKinley Park, Bridgeport,
Really?
Back of the Yards, Brighton Park.
Okay.
And those are diverse communities.
They are pretty diverse, but it's still, I mean, I still think, wow, I tend to think of them as mainly, I guess, white folks and Chinese folks and, a few Latinos sprinkled in there. But, it's pretty diverse, as you're saying. Now, tell me, how do you see your role evolving? Or do you plan to change or plan to grow in any different way in as far as your teaching? Or is it pretty much keeping what you have because it's worked so well?
We change and we grow all the time.
All the time?
We start new projects, we start new supplemental classes based on the need. So a few months ago, we had a student forum. What would you like? What do you like about our program? What don't you like? How can we better serve you? And so there are some needs that have come up, such as maybe offering a leadership class to our students to teach them some leadership skills. And so when we talk to our students, we get to know them, we know them by name, we know why they're there. And so we have those conversations on a daily basis. How can we best serve you? And we're not scared of making those changes. That's how our program has been around for so long. And that's how we have a waiting list and how we don't recruit students, because it is meeting the need.
And the student forum, that's what it was, right? How often do you hold those?
We just had our first ever in January.
First ever, okay.
Yes. Noticing that, we've had more students who are in every single day, like Julio mentioned, and, they're comfortable with us, we're comfortable with them, and they can give us the honest feedback that we're looking for, so we know that we're doing our jobs right.
Okay. So, so what's in the works now? Now that you've had this student forum and they want different things, what are you looking toward in the short term and in the long term?
I think continuing the programs where there's student ownership, like a leadership class.
How is that going to look? And I'm always curious about leadership because leadership means so many different things.
Right.
What's the philosophy that you're going to try to implement through that?
Really, just to get our students to have the self-esteem and the self-confidence to help the Literacy Center, help their local community, get involved in their children's school. And so, for example, we just added one of our students as one of our board members, who is an educator himself, who started a Spanish literacy class for the low literate students who don't have basic education in their own native language of Spanish. And so really kind of tapping into the talents of our students and seeing, how can they help us in the program? How can they help the community? How can they give back also?
Right, and you touched on something we had been speaking about before the program started, that some of your students don't have the language skills in their native language. But for Spanish speakers, you are offering support.
Right. Once a week, we have two of our current students, both who are educators back in their native country. They offer a small group class for about 2 hours once a week to help with the basic skills in Spanish, putting a word together to make a sentence, to make a paragraph, and to understand the basics in their own language so we can bridge them to English language literacy classes.
You're not going to take that on you. We're a Spanish teacher, right?
No, I think it's important as a native speaker, and I think as a fellow student, I think they have the skills to really make those students and to allow those students to succeed and flourish.
So once they have that foundation, and that's one thing I think a lot of us tend to think, well, why am I learning Spanish? Why do I have to practice my native language? What I need to learn and want to learn is English. What is that, knowing your native language well, what does that translate to when you're learning English?
The most important thing is to have a foundation in your native language. So when you're learning a second language, you can have a hook on your native language. You can hook on, okay, I know what a noun is in Spanish, I know what it is now in English. That makes sense to me. And to have that foundation and background, we know is essential.
Okay, one final question. We're running out of time. Tell me how you advocate for the community, because that's also part of your work, right? Tell us about that.
You know, for our community, the most important thing is, you know, literacy really is the foundation of a lot of issues in our community. And so if we can have our students speak the most common language in the United States, English, you know, they can be advocates for themselves. Our goal is to empower our students through English language literacy. And through everything that we do, our focus is to empower our student to have those skills to be advocates themselves.
Great. And actually, one final question for real now, for Julio. What do you hope? How do you hope to impact here in Chicago? You're not a native, but you've come here now. What do you hope to offer from your own experience?
You know, I think the most important thing that I feel that I'm able to be a part of is with those students that are now taking the lead, and their students are now starting to become some of the teachers. And I think it's helping them tap into that confidence that they had in their home country, because they do have degrees in teaching, and they are educators, and they do have backgrounds as professionals, but you know, they don't have the confidence because they don't have they're working on the English part. Now, if we can work past that and get the self-confidence up, they're gonna take the reins, and they're gonna take more leadership in the whole organization, and really not only take ownership, but set an example for the other students of saying, hey, you know, we can do this, we can learn the English, and then once we learn the English, we can start teaching ourselves. So like helping them see the potential that we see, it's already there.
Okay, great. That's great to hear. Thank you so much for coming today and sharing a lot of the good work you're doing with us and with our viewers.
Thank you.
Perspectivas Latinas is a community service of CAN TV. If your nonprofit would like to work with CAN TV, call 312-738-1400 and ask for nonprofit services. Tune into Perspectivas Latinas for local issues and concerns every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. on CAN TV 21. I'm Juan Carlos Hernandez. Thank you for joining us.